Lisa Martinez rolled her wheelchair up the gravel driveway of the old Hayes family home. The big white house looked the same as it had 20 years ago when she was a child. Nothing ever changed here, especially not the people inside. She could already hear voices and laughter coming from the backyard. Her stomach felt tight with worry. Every year she told herself it would be different. Every year she was wrong. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Jake. "Sorry I can't be there today. Big meeting with investors. Love you. Stay strong." Lisa smiled a little. Jake always knew when she needed encouragement. He had been away, on business trips more often lately, but she understood. His company was growing fast and important people wanted to meet with him. She pushed her wheelchair around to the back of the house. About 30 family members were scattered across the lawn. Some sat at picnic tables eating food. Others played games or stood talking in groups. When they saw Lisa coming, several of them stopped what they were doing. "Well, look who showed up," said her Aunt Helen. Helen was a large woman with gray hair and a permanent frown. She had never liked Lisa, not since Lisa was born. "Where's that husband of yours? Still chasing after those crazy business ideas?" "Jake is working," Lisa said quietly. She moved her chair to an empty spot near the food table. Her cousin Danny walked over with a beer in his hand. Danny was Helen's son, and he had inherited his mother's mean spirit. Working on what? Another one of his failed projects? He laughed, loudly. "I heard his last company went nowhere. What makes him think this one will be different?" "Jake's company is doing very well," Lisa said. She tried to keep her voice calm. "Sure it is," said another cousin, Betty. "That's why he drives that old car and lives in that tiny house with you." Lisa's face felt hot. Jake did drive an old car, but only because he didn't care about showing off. And their house was small, but it was comfortable and filled with love. These people wouldn't understand that. "I don't know why he married her anyway," Helen said to the group, speaking as if Lisa wasn't there. "Look at her. She can't even walk. What kind of life is that for a man like him?" "Maybe he felt sorry for her," Danny said. "You know how some people are. They think they're being noble by taking care of broken things." Lisa gripped the wheels of her chair tighter. She had heard these comments before, but they still hurt. Her disability was something she was born with. Her legs had never worked properly, and doctors said they never would. But she had lived a full life despite that. She had gone to college, had a career, and met Jake at a medical research center where she volunteered. "At least she's useful for getting those disability checks," said another relative, Uncle Bob. "That's probably how they pay their bills." "I have a job," Lisa said firmly. "I work from home doing computer programming." "Oh, right," Helen said with a fake smile. "Your little computer hobby. How much does that actually pay? Enough to support a grown man?" The group laughed. Lisa felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give these people the satisfaction of seeing her cry. "You know what I think?" Danny said, setting down his beer. "I think Jake is getting tired of playing caretaker. That's why he's always away on these business trips. He's probably looking for a way out." "That's not true," Lisa said. "Come on, Lisa, be realistic. What man wants to be stuck with someone who can't even stand up to dance at their own wedding?" More laughter from the group. Lisa remembered her wedding day. It had been beautiful, and Jake had been so happy. When the music played for their first dance, he had knelt down beside her wheelchair and they had danced together that way. It was one of the most romantic moments of her life. "I bet he's already seeing someone else," Betty added. "Some normal woman who can give him a normal life." "Stop it," Lisa said, but her voice was barely above a whisper. Danny was getting more excited now. He had always been a bully, even as a child. "Hey, I have an idea. Since Lisa is always sitting down anyway, maybe we should make sure she stays that way." He walked toward the old barn at the edge of the property. When he came back, he was carrying a coil of rope. "Danny, what are you doing?" Lisa asked, fear creeping into her voice. "Just having some fun," Danny said. "Don't worry, it won't hurt much." Lisa tried to roll her wheelchair backward, but Danny was faster. He began wrapping the rope around her in the chair, binding her arms to her sides. She struggled, but the rope was strong and Danny was bigger than her. Stop this right now, Lisa demanded, but no one moved to help her. Relax, Helen said. It's just a joke. You always were too serious. Other family members were pulling out their phones, taking pictures and videos of Lisa tied to her wheelchair. Some were laughing so hard they could barely hold their devices steady. This is going to be great for social media, one of her younger cousins said. Look at her face. Lisa sat there, bound and helpless, surrounded by people who were supposed to be her family. They pointed at her and made jokes about her situation. Some suggested leaving her tied up for the rest of the reunion. As the humiliation continued, Lisa looked up at the clear blue sky above. Somewhere out there, Jake was in his meeting, working hard to build something important. He had no idea what was happening to her right now. He trusted these people to treat her with basic respect. She closed her eyes and tried to imagine Jake's voice telling her everything would be okay. Soon, she told herself. Soon this day would be over and she could go home. 5 years earlier, Dr. Jake Coleman had been working alone in his research lab when the first signal came through. He was studying samples from deep space when his equipment picked up something impossible. The readings showed a pattern that could not be natural. Someone was trying to communicate. Jake spent 3 days checking and double-checking his data. When he was sure the signal was real, he sent it to his supervisor at the Space Research Center. Within hours, government officials arrived at his lab. They told him the signal was classified and that he was now part of a top-secret project. The signal led them to coordinates in deep space. A small research ship was sent to investigate with Jake as the lead scientist. What they found there changed everything Jake thought he knew about the universe. The ship that met them was beautiful. It looked like it was made of crystal and light. Inside were beings that called themselves Etherians. They were not solid like humans. Instead, they were made of pure energy that could take different shapes. When they spoke, their voices sounded like music in Jake's mind. The Etherians told Jake they had been watching Earth for many years. They were impressed by some things humans did, but worried about others. They wanted to know if humans were ready to join other intelligent species in the galaxy. We have seen your wars and your cruelty, the Etherian leader said to Jake. But we have also seen your kindness and your ability to grow. We need to understand which side of your nature is stronger. Jake spent weeks with the Etherians, learning about their technology and their society. They showed him medical devices that could cure any disease. They had machines that could create anything from pure energy. Their ships could travel faster than light. Why are you showing me this? Jake asked. Because we believe you might be the right human to help us understand your species, the Etherian leader replied. You study life in all its forms. You seek knowledge, not power. But we need to test something about humans before we can trust you with our technology. The Etherians explained their test. They wanted to see how humans treated their weakest members. In their society, the measure of any civilization was how it cared for those who needed help. They had watched human history and seen both great compassion and terrible cruelty. We will give you some of our technology, the leader said. You will return to Earth and start a company. We will watch how you use what we give you, but more importantly, we will watch how you live your life. Jake returned to Earth with a small device that could convert energy in ways human science had never imagined. He quit his job at the research center and started Coleman Dynamics. To everyone else, it looked like he was trying to develop new energy technology. In reality, he was slowly introducing Etherian science to humanity. The company grew quickly. Jake's energy devices were years ahead of anything else on the market. Investors wanted to give him money, but Jake was careful about who he worked with. He remembered what the Etherians had said about power and corruption. It was during this time that Jake met Lisa. He had gone to a medical research center to volunteer for a study about human genetics. The Etherians had told him that understanding human diversity was important for their evaluation of the species. Lisa was also volunteering at the center. She helped coordinate research studies and worked with families who had genetic conditions. Jake watched her interact with patients and their families. She was kind and patient with everyone, especially children who were scared or confused. Jake found himself looking forward to his visits to the center, not for the research, but to see Lisa. She was smart and funny, and she never complained about her own situation. When other volunteers left early or made excuses, Lisa stayed late to finish her work. One day, Jake asked Lisa to have coffee with him. She seemed surprised that he was interested in her. "Most people don't see past the wheelchair," she said. "Then, most people are idiots," Jake replied. They talked for hours that day. Lisa told him about her family and how they treated her. She spoke about her dreams of traveling and seeing the world, even though her disability made it difficult. Jake told her about his work, though he had to be careful about what he revealed. As they continued to meet, Jake realized he was falling in love with Lisa. But he also knew the Ethereans were watching his choices. They had told him that how he treated others would determine humanity's future. Jake proposed to Lisa after 6 months. He knew that marrying her would be seen by some people as a burden or a mistake. The Ethereans had warned him that this would be part of the test. Would he choose love over convenience? Would he stand by someone who needed extra care? Lisa said yes, but she had concerns. "Are you sure about this, Jake? I come with complications. My family is difficult, and taking care of me won't always be easy." "I'm not taking care of you," Jake said. "We're taking care of each other. That's what love means." They had a small wedding with just a few friends. Lisa's family attended but spent most of the time complaining about the cost and questioning Jake's motives. After the wedding, Jake's business trips became more frequent. He was actually traveling to meet with the Ethereans, but he couldn't tell Lisa the truth yet. The Ethereans were pleased with Jake's choice to marry Lisa. "You have shown that you value a person's character over their physical abilities," the leader told him. "This gives us hope for your species." But the test was not over. The Ethereans wanted to see how Jake would handle long-term challenges. They wanted to observe how Lisa's family treated her over time, and how Jake would respond to that treatment. "We will continue to watch," the leader said. "When the time is right, we will reveal ourselves to your wife and her family. Their reaction will help us decide humanity's future." Jake agreed to continue the test, even though it meant keeping secrets from the woman he loved. He knew that Lisa's family reunion was approaching. The Ethereans had indicated that this event would be important. They would be watching to see how the Hayes family treated Lisa, and how Jake would respond when he learned what happened. As Jake sat in his hotel room, preparing for another meeting with Etherean representatives, he had no idea that miles away, Lisa was being humiliated and tied up by her own relatives. But the Ethereans knew. They were always watching, and they were not pleased with what they saw. Lisa had been tied to her wheelchair for almost an hour. Her arms were getting numb from the rope and her shoulders ached. The Hayes family continued to laugh and take pictures. Some of them had posted the photos online already. "This is the best reunion ever," Danny said, drinking another beer. "We should do this every year. Maybe next time we can get her to do tricks," Betty added, "like a trained dog." Lisa closed her eyes and tried to block out their voices. She thought about Jake and wondered when he would call to check on her. He always called during family events because he knew how difficult they were for her. Suddenly, a shadow passed over the backyard. It was huge, blocking out the sun completely. Everyone looked up at the sky. "What the hell is that?" Uncle Bob asked. 3 ships were descending from the clouds. They were unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The ships were sleek and silver, with no visible engines or wings. They made no sound as they moved through the air. The largest ship was about the size of a house. The 2 smaller ones flanked it on either side. The Hayes family stood frozen, watching the ships land in the field, next to their property. The grass didn't even bend under the weight of the vessels. They seemed to float just above the ground. "Are those military planes?" Helen asked, her voice shaking. "Those aren't planes," Danny said. "I've never seen anything like that." A door opened in the side of the largest ship. Light poured out, so bright that everyone had to shield their eyes. A figure stepped out, but the light made it impossible to see who it was. As the figure walked closer, the light dimmed. The Hayes family gasped when they recognized who it was. Jake Coleman walked across the field toward them, but he didn't look like the Jake they remembered. He was wearing a suit that seemed to be made of liquid metal. It covered his entire body and glowed with a soft blue light. On his chest was a symbol that looked like intertwined stars. Behind Jake, 3 floating devices followed him. They were about the size of basketballs and made of the same silver material as the ships. They hummed quietly as they moved through the air. "Jake?" Lisa whispered. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Jake's eyes found Lisa immediately. When he saw her tied to the wheelchair, his expression became cold and angry. He walked straight to her without looking at anyone else. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly, kneeling beside her chair. "I'm okay," Lisa said. "Jake, what is all this? What are those ships?" Jake didn't answer her question yet. Instead, he touched his suit and a thin beam of light shot out. The rope around Lisa fell away, cut so cleanly that it looked like it had been sliced with a razor. Lisa rubbed her arms where the rope had been. Jake helped her adjust her position in the wheelchair. One of the floating devices came closer and scanned Lisa with a gentle blue light. "No permanent damage," Jake said, reading information that appeared in the air near the device. "But you're dehydrated and stressed." "Jake," Helen said, finding her voice. "What is going on here? Where did those ships come from?" Jake stood up and turned to face the Hayes family. When he looked at them, his eyes seemed to glow with the same blue light as his suit. "My name is Dr. Jake Coleman," he said. "I am the official Earth representative to the Etherian Confederation. For the past 5 years, I have been working with an advanced alien species to determine if humanity is ready to join the galactic community." The family stared at him in shock. Several people sat down heavily on the nearest chairs or benches. "Aliens?" Danny laughed nervously. "Come on, Jake, this is some kind of joke, right? Those are just fancy military jets or something." Jake touched his suit again. One of the floating devices projected a hologram into the air above the backyard. The image showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light. "Each of these lights represents an intelligent species," Jake said. "There are over 50,000 civilizations in our galaxy alone. Most of them have been watching Earth for centuries, waiting to see if humans are ready to join them." "This is crazy," Helen said. "You're talking about science fiction." 3 hours ago, I was on the Etherian homeworld, in a meeting with their High Council," Jake continued. "They have been monitoring human behavior, particularly how we treat our most vulnerable members. They believe that how a species cares for those who need help is the true measure of their moral development." Jake walked closer to the family. As he moved, the floating devices spread out around the backyard, scanning each person. "The Etherians have been watching this family for 2 years," Jake said. "They have recorded every cruel word, every moment of mockery, every instance of abuse directed at my wife." "We were just having fun," Danny said weakly. "Fun?" Jake's voice became hard. "You tied up a disabled woman and humiliated her for your entertainment. You posted pictures of her suffering on social media. You told her that her husband was probably cheating on her because of her disability." The floating devices projected more holograms. These showed recordings of the family's treatment of Lisa, not just from today but from previous reunions. The images were crystal clear and included audio of every insult and cruel comment. "Oh my God," Betty whispered. "How long have you been watching us?" "The Etherians see everything," Jake said. "They have technology that can monitor any location on Earth. They have been studying human behavior to decide if our species deserves access to advanced technology and membership in the galactic community." Lisa was staring at Jake in amazement. "You're really working with aliens?" Jake turned to her, his expression softening. "Yes, I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't until the evaluation was complete. The Etherians needed to observe natural human behavior. If people knew they were being watched by aliens, they might act differently." "And we're being evaluated based on how we treat Lisa?" Helen asked. "Not just Lisa. How humans treat all disabled people, all minorities, all vulnerable populations. But Lisa's treatment by her own family has been a significant factor in their assessment." One of the ships began to glow brighter. A new sound filled the air, like singing, but not quite music. "They're here," Jake said. "The Etherians are ready to make their judgment." The largest ship opened again, and this time something incredible emerged. It looked like a being made of pure light, constantly shifting between different colors. It floated toward the group, leaving a trail of sparkling energy in the air. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "People of Earth," the being said, "we are the Etherians. We have been watching your species for many of your lifetimes. Today we will decide your future among the stars." The Hayes family fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the presence of the alien being. Lisa sat in her wheelchair, staring in wonder at the creature of light. "The test is complete," the Etherian announced. "We have seen both the best and worst of humanity. Now we must determine which side will prevail." The Etherian being floated above the Hayes family backyard, its form shifting between colors like a living rainbow. The air around it sparkled with tiny points of light. When it moved, reality seemed to bend and twist around its presence. "We have studied your species for many generations," the Etherian said. Its voice resonated in everyone's mind rather than their ears. "We have seen your wars and your peace, your cruelty and your kindness, your progress and your failures." Helen was still on her knees, shaking with fear. "Please don't hurt us. We didn't know. We didn't understand." "Ignorance is not an excuse for cruelty," the Etherian replied. "Knowledge of consequences does not create morality. Character is revealed in how beings treat others when they believe no one is watching." Danny tried to stand up, but his legs wouldn't support him. "We were just joking around. It wasn't serious. Lisa knows we didn't mean anything by it." The being's light pulsed brighter. "Show them," it said to Jake. Jake touched his suit, and the floating devices projected new holograms into the air. These images showed other parts of Earth: a hospital where doctors work to save lives, a school where teachers help disabled children learn, volunteers feeding homeless people, parents caring for sick children. "Your species has great capacity for good," the Etherian said. "We have seen humans sacrifice themselves to save strangers. We have watched your doctors work without sleep to heal the sick. We have observed your teachers give their own resources to help poor students." The holograms changed to show darker scenes: wars and violence, people being cruel to those who were different, the homeless being ignored, the disabled being mocked and excluded. "But we have also seen this," the Etherian continued. "Humans who find entertainment in the suffering of others, who mock those who cannot defend themselves, who abandon their own family members when caring becomes difficult." Lisa found her voice. "What does this mean for humanity?" The Etherian turned its attention to her. When it did, she felt a warm sensation like being wrapped in sunlight. "You, Lisa Martinez Coleman, have been at the center of our evaluation. Your husband was chosen as our representative partly because of you. We wanted to observe how humans would treat the wife of someone they believed to be powerless." "I don't understand," Lisa said. Jake knelt beside her wheelchair again. "The Etherians have technology that could cure your condition, Lisa. They could heal your legs and make you walk. But they wanted to see if I would love you regardless. They wanted to see if your family would treat you with respect regardless. We measure civilizations by how they care for their vulnerable members," the Etherian explained. "A species that abandons or abuses those who need help is not ready for the power that comes with advanced technology." Uncle Bob finally found the courage to speak. "What kind of power?" The holograms changed again. This time they showed incredible technology: ships that could travel between stars in minutes, medical devices that could cure any disease or injury, machines that could create food, clothing, or shelter from nothing but energy, cities floating in space, planets being transformed from barren rocks into gardens. "This is what awaits species that prove themselves worthy," the Etherian said. "Technology that could end hunger, disease, and death itself. The ability to explore the galaxy and meet thousands of other intelligent races. Knowledge that could transform your understanding of existence itself." "And if we're not worthy?" Betty asked in a small voice. The being's light dimmed. "Then you continue as you are, alone on your single planet, struggling with problems you could easily solve if you were ready for the solutions. Some species never They advance beyond their primitive moral state. They eventually destroy themselves through war or environmental collapse. Helen started crying. It's our fault, isn't it? Because of how we treated Lisa, we've doomed the entire human race. The responsibility is not yours alone, the Etherean replied. But your behavior is representative of a problem that exists throughout your species. Too many humans define worth by physical ability, wealth, or social status. Too few understand that consciousness itself is sacred regardless of the form it takes. Jake stood up and faced the alien being. What can we do? How can humanity prove it's ready? The choice has already been made, the Etherean said. We have been observing not just this family, but thousands of families around your world. We have seen how disabled humans are treated in your schools, your workplaces, your communities. We have watched how your elderly are cared for or abandoned. We have observed how your society responds to those who are different. Lisa felt her heart sinking. She had experienced enough cruelty in her life to know that her family was not unusual. Many people treated the disabled with pity at best, cruelty at worst. However, the Etherean continued, we have also seen the other side of humanity. We have observed Jake's devotion to you, Lisa. We have watched doctors and nurses care for patients they will never meet again. We have seen teachers spend their own money to help disabled students. We have witnessed strangers risk their lives to help people they don't know. The being moved closer to the family. Humanity stands at a crossroads. Your species has the potential for great good or great evil. The choice of which path you take is still before you. What do you want us to do? Danny asked. We want you to choose, the Etherean replied. Not just you, but all of humanity. Will you continue to see differences as weaknesses to be mocked? Or will you learn to see them as variations that make your species stronger? The floating devices began projecting a new image. It showed the Earth as seen from space, blue and beautiful and fragile. We will give humanity one chance, the Etherean announced. Jake Coleman will reveal our existence to your world. He will share some of our technology with your leaders. But the real test begins now. What test? Lisa asked. How your species responds to this knowledge. How you treat each other when you know the galaxy is watching. Whether you use this opportunity to become better, or whether you continue in your old patterns of cruelty and division. The alien being began to glow brighter. You have 1 year to prove yourselves worthy. 1 year to show that you can build a society based on compassion rather than competition. 1 year to demonstrate that you value all consciousness, not just the forms that seem powerful or perfect. Jake took Lisa's hand. What happens if humanity fails the test? Then we leave you alone, the Etherean said simply. Forever. No second chances. No further contact. You will face your future without our help, and without the friendship of the 50,000 other species in this galaxy. The being began to fade, becoming translucent. But if you succeed, if you prove that you can be trusted with power, then we will welcome you as partners in the greatest adventure any species can imagine. Wait, Helen called out. What about us? What about our family? How do we make up for what we've done? The Etherean paused in its departure. That choice is yours to make, but remember this. Every moment of cruelty you have shown Lisa, every word of mockery, every act of exclusion, has been recorded and studied by beings across the galaxy. Your treatment of one disabled woman has become a symbol of humanity's moral development. The alien being disappeared, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air. The ships began to rise from the field, their lights dimming as they prepared to leave. The Hayes family was left alone with Jake and Lisa, facing the enormity of what they had just learned. The Hayes family sat in stunned silence as the alien ships disappeared into the clouds. The backyard felt empty and ordinary again, but everything had changed. They all knew that nothing would ever be the same. Helen was the first to move. She walked slowly to where Lisa sat in her wheelchair. Tears were streaming down her face. Lisa, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I am so sorry. I am so deeply, truly sorry. Helen dropped to her knees in front of Lisa's wheelchair. I have been cruel to you your entire life. I made fun of your disability. I told people you were a burden. I taught my children to treat you badly. And now I find out that beings from across the galaxy have been watching me be horrible to my own niece." Danny came forward too. His face was pale and he looked sick. "Lisa, I tied you up today. I humiliated you in front of everyone. I thought it was funny. How could I think hurting you was funny?" One by one, the other family members approached Lisa. Betty, Uncle Bob, and all the cousins who had laughed and taken pictures. They all apologized. Some were crying. Others could barely speak from shame. Lisa looked at each of them carefully. These were the people who had made her childhood miserable, who had made her dread family gatherings, who had made her feel worthless for most of her life. "Why now?" she asked. "Why are you sorry now? Is it because you're afraid of the aliens? Or because you finally understand that I'm a real person with real feelings?" Helen wiped her eyes. "Both, I think. I'm terrified about what this means for humanity. But I'm also seeing you clearly for the first time. I've been looking at your wheelchair instead of looking at you." Jake had been watching quietly. Now he spoke up. "The Etherians aren't gone. They're still monitoring Earth. Everything that happens from now on will be part of their evaluation. So we need to change," Danny said. "Not just us, but everyone. The whole world needs to change how we treat people like Lisa." "People like me?" Lisa asked. "No," Danny said quickly. "I mean, I don't know how to say this right. People who are different. People who need help. People who are human," Lisa finished for him. "Just like you." Jake touched his suit and one of the floating devices came closer. "The Etherians left me some technology to help with the transition. Lisa, they wanted me to offer you something." The device projected a hologram showing Lisa's medical scans. Jake pointed to areas that glowed with soft light. "They can fix your legs," Jake said. "Their medical technology could repair the genetic condition you were born with. You could walk." Lisa stared at the hologram. She had dreamed of walking her entire life. She had imagined what it would feel like to stand up, to run, to dance with Jake without her wheelchair. "But there's something else," Jake continued. "The Etherians also said that your experience as a disabled person has given you wisdom that humanity needs. They believe people like you, who have faced discrimination and overcome challenges, might be the key to helping our species pass their test." Lisa was quiet for a long time. Everyone waited for her answer. "I want to think about the medical treatment," she finally said. "Walking would be wonderful. But I also know that my wheelchair is part of who I am. It's taught me things about strength and patience that I might not have learned otherwise." She looked around at her family. "What I really want is for no other disabled child to grow up feeling the way you all made me feel. I want our species to pass this test not because we're afraid of aliens, but because we genuinely become better people." Helen nodded. "Tell us how. Tell us what we need to do." Over the next few hours, Lisa and Jake explained what needed to happen. Jake would reveal the existence of the Etherians to world leaders. The technology he shared would begin to solve humanity's biggest problems, but the real work would be changing hearts and minds. "Every school needs to teach children that all people have value," Lisa said. "Every workplace needs to make room for people with disabilities. Every family needs to support their members instead of rejecting them." "What about social media?" Betty asked. "Those pictures and videos we took today, delete them," Jake said, firmly. "And start posting different content. Show people what inclusion looks like. Show them families supporting each other." Danny pulled out his phone and deleted the photos he had taken. "I'll make new posts about how wrong I was, about how much I've learned today." As the sun began to set, the Hayes family made a plan. They would start with their own community. They would volunteer at disability centers. They would support inclusive programs in schools. They would speak out against discrimination wherever they saw it. "It won't be easy," Helen said. "Changing the whole world, I mean." "The Etherians aren't expecting perfection," Jake replied. "They're looking for genuine effort and real progress. They want to see humanity moving in the right direction." 6 months later, Lisa sat on a stage at the United Nations headquarters in New York. She was still in her wheelchair, having decided to keep it while also using the Ethereum medical treatments that had strengthened her overall health. The treatments had given her more energy and eliminated her chronic pain, but she had chosen to remain in her chair as a symbol. "Fellow humans," she said to the assembled world leaders, "we have been given an incredible opportunity. Beings from across the galaxy are watching us, waiting to see if we're ready to join them among the stars." The audience listened intently. In the 6 months since Jake had revealed the existence of the Ethereans, the world had begun to change. Not completely and not without resistance, but the change was real. "The test isn't about our technology or our military power," Lisa continued. "It's about our character. It's about whether we can build a world where everyone belongs, where everyone has value, where everyone gets the chance to contribute." The audience, the Hayes family, sat together. Helen held a sign that read, "Lisa's family supports inclusion." Danny had started a foundation that built wheelchair-accessible playgrounds. Betty volunteered as a sign language interpreter. "We have work to do," Lisa said, "but I believe in humanity. I believe we can pass this test. I believe we can become worthy of the stars." As Lisa finished her speech, she thought about the Etherean being who had visited her family's reunion. She wondered if they were watching now, if they could see the changes happening across the world. In a ship hidden in the clouds above Earth, the Etherean Council observed the scene. Their energy forms pulsed with what humans might have called satisfaction. "The species shows promise," one of them said. "The test continues, but they are learning." "Yes," replied another. "They are beginning to understand that their strength comes not from their perfection, but from how they care for their imperfections." On Earth, humanity continued its greatest test, not knowing that across the galaxy, 50,000 other species were watching and hoping that they would succeed.